anchor for Law and Crime Network, and Dina Sayegdal, an attorney who is a legal analyst for the Law and Crime Network. Good to see you both. Oh, Jesse, we talked about this last night, the possibility of a hung jury. And once the jurors ask that question, it has got to make all the parties, well, particularly the prosecution in this case, very nervous.
Well, Dan, the minute I heard that, I have to say I did think of you. I did think of what you said last night. I am going to say that could very well be a possibility, but not so fast, because I'm more interested in the second question they had about the zip ties for the gun. That signifies to me that the jurors who want that question are the jurors who are leaning towards an acquittal or who are undecided, because the jurors who already think that she's guilty, they don't need to see the gun yet. So the fact that the jurors want to see this gun and hold it in their hands and see the difference between that and a taser, they want to really articulate the differences between that and the other weapon. That signifies to me that maybe after they do that, they're going to the jurors who are already siding for guilt are going to convince the jurors who are leaning towards acquittal. So as much as this looks right now that maybe they're not, on the same page, tomorrow could be very interesting. And also it should be noted, it wasn't clear whether or not they are undecided about both charges or one charge. So although it looks like they might not come to a consensus, that second question is so critical, because I think they're going to look at that gun and say, oh my gosh, how on earth could Kim Potter mistake this for a taser?
Yeah, and Dina, it is definitely true that this is not a foregone conclusion. I've seen a lot of cases where the judge issues what's called an Allen charge, a dynamite charge, whatever you want to call it, where the judge basically says, look, go back in there, talk to each other, try and figure this out. That would certainly happen before the judge would just say, oh, yeah, hung jury, we're done. What do you make of Jesse's comments, too?
I mean, it's absolutely right. And I think the key piece is what we don't know. How many of them maybe are in agreement? Are we in a, 10-2 situation? Yes, maybe two people could change their mind and either find guilt or innocence. Or is this a 6-6 decision and the odds of 6 different people changing their minds, is less likely? That part we don't know. So it's a little bit hard to kind of read the tea leaves here and know whether or not they will be able to continue deliberation and come to a consensus. It's definitely more possible depending on that number.
Right. It is impossible to read the tea leaves, but that's what we do, right? I mean, that's what we're here to do, is to read the tea leaves, even though we know the first thing you want to warn someone about is, hey, I can't say for certain, but I'm going to read some tea leaves. Let me play a piece of sound. This is number 9. This is when Kim Potter was on the witness stand. I said at the beginning of this case that the most important moment in this case, and it's not surprising, it's not particularly insightful, was that Kim Potter's testimony. I want to play a piece of it, and then we're going to come back.
You never saw a weapon on Mr. Wright, did you?
No.
Never saw a gun?
No.
He never threw a punch, right?
No.
Never kicked anyone?
No.
Never said, I'm going to kill you?
No.
Never said, I'm going to shoot you?
No.
Never said, there's a gun in the car and I'm coming after you?
No.
Jesse, as I said before this case started that I thought her testimony was going to make or break it. I'm not so convinced of it anymore, because when she was on the stand, she's basically admitting kind of everything that the prosecution's case is laying out and just saying, yeah, I kind of freaked out.
Well, here's the benefit. I don't think she's lying. She seems pretty credible, but she's not giving the answers that her defense team wants, because what is she not saying? She's not saying, hey, you know what? I was justified in pulling my weapon. I had really no choice. Maybe I didn't think it at the time, but I thought it at the time. But here's the thing, and I said this last night, I'm going to say it again. There's a difference between her saying at the time, I had to take out this weapon, versus now when her defense attorneys are kind of manufacturing that defense for her. And even if she never thought of it, well, I'll tell you what, jury, yes, it was a mistake, but she was justified in using that weapon nonetheless. Right. And even if you accept that, what danger was there? Because I didn't hear the kind of testimony that and yes, the Officer Johnson testified that he thought he was going to be dragged, but really, I didn't get that sense.
But Dina, let's assume for a moment that the deadly shooting wasn't justified. The reason I've always thought there was going to be a hung jury here was because I thought the jurors were going to sympathize with her. They were going to say she made a mistake. It was a deadly mistake, but it was a mistake. And as a result, I, meaning whatever number of jurors in this case, am just not comfortable convicting her. And so her very admissions, the things that where she's basically saying, yeah, this is what happened, and then crying, I actually think help her.
I agree. And I actually think if there's not a hung jury here, I could see an acquittal because, I mean, the most important testimony really is the day right after the shooting where she says, taser, taser. And her testimony in court was just supporting that testimony. I mean, she clearly made a mistake and the prosecution wants that to be criminal and the defense, does not. And the idea, I think really probably the star in the courtroom was Dr. Miller because his expert testimony that she could have done this unconsciously is all the defense needed, I think, to prove it because the prosecution had to prove that she made a conscious act. Well, and he gave them the weight that, no, this was unconscious. She did not know that she was pulling out her loaded weapon. And because of that, she doesn't have the guilt.
One other thing I want to highlight, this is number 10. This is, I think, in terms of sympathy, understanding for Kim Potter, this interaction during her testimony is critical.
Did you ever, in your career, shoot your gun at anybody?
No.
Did you ever shoot your gun in real life during your career?
No.
And did you ever shoot your taser during your career?
It was never deployed.
All right. So, Jesse, you are leaning towards possible conviction. Dina, you are leaning towards possible acquittal. Stick around if you would, because a lot of our viewers are going to either agree or disagree, including with me, on the Kim Potter trial. So coming up, we're going to turn the stage over to all of you. It's your chance to zoom in and put me in my place live. Up next.